Hello, in this video we will discuss about the fat state. So the process which is after eating, the process of metabolism is known as the anabolism part. So in which the instruction of the smaller molecule into the larger molecule. So in this way the smaller molecule will combine together to give a macro molecule. So the micro to macro. And important thing is that this is the anabolism, and this is the metabolic part of the anabolism we will discuss. So first of all, let's begin to understand the digestion of food with the overview for understanding the fat state. So during the visualize the food and olfaction or smell taste after the taste, and that will be accepting of the food, the selection of food through a cerebral cortex will give the signal to the medulla, which that is the gustatory nucleus, to stimulate the salivary gland to produce the amylase and the saliva. So this saliva produce and keep the lubrication of the food and select a food after the mastication and swallow. After the mastication is known as the bolus, and that bolus will go into the esophagus. So this is the salivary gland, and this is the parotid, submandibular, and maxillary gland, which that secretes the differently. And the mastication is the part which after the grinding and go into the stomach. So the food will go into the stomach and is from the esophagus, that is known as the bolus. And this bolus is further digest, and protein will be digest, and the further amylopectin and starch will be digest, and the protein will be begin to digest into the stomach, and after the complete digestion will be occurring in the duodenum. So this is the peristaltic movement which that is involved throughout the digestive tract. So this is the after the digestion and absorption. So the in this way the vagal nerves, this vagal nerve is create the parasympathetic nervous system, and it will allow to back and forth movement for the digestion and secretion of the enzyme, as well as the other hydrochloric acid and enzyme, which that secrete through a vagal nerve, which that parasympathetic nerve is used for the digestion and absorption. After the complete digestion and absorption, the vagal nerve will be give a negative feedback mechanism. In this way, the inhibition of the vagal nerve, which that is stimulate to movement and the peristaltic movement to expel the bolus into the chyme and move into the pyloric sphincter to the duodenum. And this is the basically also the parasympathetic nervous system is involved for the pancreas to produce amylase, lipase, trypsin, elastase. And in this way you can see that the digestion of food, that is the digested food to absorb. So the digested food will be absorbed, and the sugar, amino acids, and chylomicron. This the sugar, amino acids, and chylomicron is the absorbing system. In this way, the absorption in the form of sugar, simple sugar, amino acid, and chylomicron in the form of fatty acid. So it will be move into the blood circulatory system after the absorption, and in this way, this is the very low density lipoproteins known as the chylomicron, and the simple sugar lead to hyperglycemia, and in this way the amino acid is known as the hyperamine in the blood. So insulin and somatostatin, which that is increase during the eating and absorption, while the glucagon, this glucagon is decreased because the destruction or the it is a part of the sympathetic nervous system, and it is used for the glycogenolysis, while the glycogenesis will be occur and ATP increase in the muscle, and the insulin also trigger this GLUT2 channel. So here is a GLUT2 channel is used for the incoming of the sugar. So hyperglycemia will again the normal. So in this way, the continuously the sugar will move, so that drastically decrease the hyperglycemia into the isoglycemia. It will normalized into the blood after the movement into the liver and muscle, so as well as the adipose tissue. So this is the glycolysis. This glycolysis is basically uh, not produced, but the glycogenesis is produced in the liver. And on the other hand, the GLUT4 channel is involved, while here the very low density lipoprotein is received by the VLDL receptor, scavenger receptor, and this scavenger receptor is endocytosed and it will be modified. How it's possible it's modified? So let's begin to understand all things. So VLDL will be dissociated into the hepatocyte in the liver, and amino acids also move into the liver and to modify into the apoprotein, ApoA, ApoC, and ApoE. This will be packaging together to form a lipoprotein. This lipoprotein is very important and it is known as the high density lipoprotein because the lipids content and the protein content is equal, so the half. Cholesterol will be added also. This cholesterol is important for the fluidity of the cell, so it will be transported through a high density lipoprotein. So this high density lipoprotein will be increased, while in the fasted state the low density lipoprotein will be increased due to the lipolysis. So here is the glycogenesis. Gluconeogenesis will be decreased while the glycogenesis will be increased, and the lipogenesis will be also, and the proteogenesis also, and the hyperglycemia will again normalized after the disposing in the sugar into the best side for their function. So if the insulin will not produce sufficient insulin not produced, so it means the hyperglycemia lead to diabetes mellitus 2 due to the disturbing of the insulin receptor. So the free fatty acid and HDL in the form of which that is move and adipose tissue will be absorbed by a ApoC, which that is involved, and in this way you can see this is the adipose tissue is trigger the glycogenesis and lipogenesis. In this way the glycogen is the minor quantity into the lipids into the adipose tissue, so the lipogenesis will be occur. So that is the anabolic part. While on the other hand, important thing is that here is the for brain. So the hypothalamus will trigger through a cerebral cortex. This cerebral cortex basically stimulate due to the excess of the amino acid, and hyperglycemia will lead to hypothalamus stimulation, to pituitary gland stimulation by hypothalamus, and somatostatin will be released. This somatostatin is increase the growth factor 1 and GFI1, GF growth factor, insulin like growth factor 1 and insulin like growth factor 2, and repairs and uptake and growth will be occur through a somatostatin. So important thing is that about the parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system, you can see the red line is looking like that. This is the very low, and destruction and cortisol and glucagon will be decreased, while the insulin, growth hormone, and other growth factor will be increased due to the food intake, which that is so the anabolized, and in this way the parasympathetic nervous system will be increased. So on the other hand, throughout the day when we will eat the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which that's contain each spike produce the more insulin for the absorption of the glucose. So it in this way you can see in this diagram. So the growth and anabolism will be occur in each and every meal. So that was the important things. So let's begin to understand important is the inhibition. What is the inhibition for this? So the beta oxidation of fatty acid, lipolysis, gluconeogenesis, proteolysis, glycolysis, sympathetic nervous system, ketones, glyceraldehyde and cortisol and glucagon, norepinephrine and epinephrine, which that is the part of the sympathetic nervous system. This all part is the sympathetic nervous system will be inhibited due to the parasympathetic nervous system activation. So in this way you can see in this diagram to understand as well. But important thing is that the insulin is basically increased and the glucagon will be decreased. So after this, muscle growth due to the growth hormone will be occur and all body growth will be occur. So this was the anabolic part of the fat state.